What is good, y'all? You know, lying for political gain has long been the modus operandi of the political class on the left and right. We did think at one point that Bill Clinton was the king, but then Barkey came along and elevated it to a near art form. But Kamala the Cackler, she has taken it to a whole new level. Now, the DNC happened last week. We didn't really get into it much, but it was chock full of liars spinning webs and webs of lies. The only really compelling thing about the DNC was how fascinating it was, how easily they let lie after lie after lie just spill out of their faces. Something else of note, though, did happen, and we'll discuss that. So let's get after it. So as I said, the DNC was last week, and I never really addressed it. As I'm sure you are aware, it was a total fiasco. There were a couple of themes, as I said, running through the entire affair, both of which have been pretty obvious to those of us who have been paying attention. They've been pretty obvious for quite some time now. One of which I mentioned in the open, obviously, which is the facility with which they lie. One of their propagandists, one of their paid propagandists, actually spilled the tea on another thread that was woven throughout the event, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that a little bit later. But the left has a very obvious aversion to the truth. From Biden to the Obamas, the Clintons, Kinzinger, and I'll get to him later on as well. Tampon Tim, Kamala the Cackler, not a single one of them said anything that was remotely true. They weren't even in the same area code as truth. And I'm not going to sit here and try to debunk every lie that they told, because we would be here forever. And neither one of us has that kind of time. People who pay attention, though, people who aren't lunatics, because there are some people who pay attention who just refuse to accept reality. But people who pay attention and are not lunatics can pretty much pick out all of those lies, regardless. But one that really struck me at first, and I couldn't really believe the brazenness of it. Then I remembered who we were dealing with, and then I realized it was perfectly on brand. And it happened in the introduction package of Tampon Tim.
Tim Walls grew up in a small town in Nebraska where he spent summers working the family farm. There were just 24 students in his graduating class. His dad served during the Korean War, and that meant a lot to Tim. So he enlisted right after his 17th birthday and served 24 years in the National Guard, rising to Command Sergeant Major.
Really? With all of the controversy surrounding the rank at which he retired, which it has been proven that he did not retire at the rank of Command Sergeant Major, you would think that they would have redone that audio. You would think they would have edited that out or something. But no. Because they know that their base probably doesn't care. And for anyone that does, they know that the American Pravda, their propaganda arm, is going to run cover for them. And we could We could spend a lot of time on Tampon Tim, but we're not going to. We're going to move on because Kamila told another egregious lie when she said that, well, her entire speech, as if you watched all 40 some odd or 30 something minutes of it, I forget how long it was, but her entire speech was just one lie after another strung together, and it was devoid of anything even resembling a fact. And this one in particular really stood out.
Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes.
No.
When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers.
Didn't happen.
When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite.
No.
He fanned the flames.
Total and complete lie. He did not send an armed mob. And we have his tweets. We have the video of what he said. And the fact that there are people who still believe, A, that he sent, like she said, an armed mob to the Capitol, B, that it was an insurrection at all, that just speaks to the penetration that the American prophet has on the psyche of these leftist lemmings. We have all the evidence we need. And then we have the recently released, well, it's been a few months now, but the footage of all the people who they allege committed an insurrection being led through the Capitol by the Capitol Police. And Nancy Pelosi is on record, is on video, saying that it was her responsibility and she should have. She said they asked her for the National Guard, and she said no. They asked her for reinforcements, and she said no. Anyway, there was another one of her really ridiculous lies that should have everyone's blood boil.
As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions.
I have absolutely no idea where she came up with that. I pay attention to this stuff. Abortion is a big issue for me. I am unapologetically, staunchly pro-life. I have never heard of anything like that from anyone. Where did it come from? I don't know. I can only speculate as to where they pulled that. But not a word of that was true. Not a single word of that was true. So theme number one, lies.
You sit on a throne of lies.
I really can't stand that movie, but that that was apropos for that segment. But theme number two, and this is also something that has been known. We've known about this about the left for decades.
But they are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman. And that's something that they really are trying to work on with male voters beyond the base.
I mean, is she saying that men who work out, eat meat, shoot guns, know how to protect themselves and their family and friends, is she saying that those men are not comfortable in their own skin? I mean, it's been obvious since the whole pajama boy campaign. I mean, ever since this madness, it's been obvious that, and even before this came out, but this brought it into the forefront, that leftist men are soy boy betas. And I've talked about it before when they bring up the whole toxic masculinity foolishness. Dana Bash mentioned Doug Emhoff, who did an interview that I responded to or reacted to a while back, where he was railing against toxic masculinity, which is something that doesn't exist. And it's just, I mean, she basically just admitted that leftist men are low T soy boy betas, and I find it quite amusing, actually. But we've been talking about the left being these soy betas for a long time, like Pajama Boy and guys like Emhoff and Adam Kinzinger.
I never expected a day to be quite as emotional for me as it has been. I've talked to a number of you and gotten to know you. I think it's important to tell you right now, though. You guys may individually feel a little broken. You guys all talk about the effects you have to deal with, and you talk about the impact of that day. But you guys won. You guys held. Democracies are not defined by our bad days.
Oh. I never pass up an opportunity to needle Kinzinger on X, because he is such a crybaby. I always tell him to cry more, and he doesn't know who I am, and I don't expect him to ever respond. But I just, it's just so ridiculous. And he was at the DNC yammering on about a bunch of nonsense. But anyway, there was him, and then there was this. I mean, look at this. His mannerisms, his gesticulations when he comes out on stage. No real masculine, testosterone-laden man does this. And when you look at this, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it kind of fits now, because this guy, well, I got into it. Let me just say this. I got into it on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, with somebody, because I mentioned that his kid, Tampon Tim's kid, was crying like a blubbering fool on camera during the DNC when he was introduced. And I didn't know at the time that he had any developmental issues, and I'm still not sure that that's the case. I mean, that's what everybody's saying. But, and okay, well, if that's true, stipulate for the record, fine, whatever. But that doesn't negate the point I made. And I wasn't, he's 17. I wasn't saying this kid, I wasn't condemning the kid. I was condemning his father for not teaching him better how to control his emotions. Because it was, I mean, his sister sitting right next to him, she was as stoic as he should have been. But the point I was making to this person on X was that a 17-year-old male should have been taught better by his father to control his emotions. And when you look at Tim Walz, it kind of makes sense that he didn't. And if his developmental issues are causing his inability to do that, I mean, that's one thing, and I get it. But again, I wasn't making fun, as they like to say, of the kid. I was saying that the dad didn't do a very good job. And to support that, and I got all kinds of heat for this, and people were saying that I was being hateful, and the reason why people turn away from God is because I was being hateful. But it is biblical to exhibit self-control and teach your children self-control. Urge the younger men to be self-controlled. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned. The key words in that passage for this context are self-control and dignity. I put it this way. I know that if I was 17 and I acted like that, my dad would have had some words for me, because there was nothing self-controlled about that, and there was nothing dignified about acting like that. And again, this is not about that particular kid. This is about teaching young men to have self-control, self-discipline, and act with dignity. And that's biblical. And I said what I said. If you don't like it, take it up with God. Read your Bible, and maybe then you'll understand. But enough about that. That was an aside. I didn't really need to get that deep into it. But going back to Dana Bash and her comments about low T guys, she also said that the leftist low T guys are more likely, or feel like it's more acceptable to support women. And of course, she is 100% wrong again. She's a leftist. Because supporting women doesn't mean just going along with the idea that they should have, that they have the right, air quotes, to kill their children. Supporting women doesn't mean that men have to just go along with whatever they want, or whatever they say, just because they're women. And no matter what they want us to think, no matter how much they try to spoon feed us otherwise, there is a such thing as right and wrong. The idea that bodily autonomy doesn't extend, and I keep going back to this abortion thing because it's important. The idea of bodily autonomy doesn't extend, and when they say support women, that's pretty much what they mean anyway. The idea that bodily autonomy doesn't extend to the body of an unborn child a woman may be carrying, they can't accept that. They can't accept that. And supporting women doesn't mean that we just go along with a man magically turning into a woman because he says he's a woman. And supporting women doesn't mean allowing those men, those mediocre men, to compete in women's sports just because they claim they're a woman and now they want to win medals and championships and all the rest of it. It doesn't work that way. That's not supporting women. And the fact that there are women out there, especially these feminists who have been eerily silent during all this, it boggles the mind that they're allowing this to happen. I don't know. But supporting women doesn't mean any of that. And a real man, a testosterone-laden man, as Dana Bash likes to put it, wants to protect not only women, not only girls, but their unborn children. And the low T soy boy betas on the left will never get that. I take it back. I shouldn't say never. But their ideology and the grip that the evil of the left has over them will only be broken by them getting a revelation from Almighty God. What these people fail to understand or are willfully ignoring is that men are necessary. Men are necessary to build and protect societies. Supporting women for the testosterone laden among us means supporting them financially when appropriate, physically when necessary, emotionally. Guys like Emhoff and Walls and Kinzinger, those guys can't be trusted to build or protect anything. Anyway, folks, that's it for this one. I will try to do better on the next one. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share these videos so that we can continue to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and the message of hope and liberty so that we can preserve it for future generations. And as usual, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel.